everything will be alright. How I live for the moments where I'm still in your presence. All noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. And all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, oh, You're the fire in the morning, you're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, oh, the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Oh, 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 I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Yeah. Jesus, have your way in me now. my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven.
You know, you think it'd get a lot easier being online and everything, but most times it's not really easy. Having said that, hello everyone, welcome back to another week of City Youth Online. My name is Kemwell, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Awesome to have you. And I hope you're all doing well. I know for myself, it's been a crazy week of just meetings, group meetings. I don't know if some of you saw my story on Instagram, but I was in a video group call for 7 hours and 20 minutes. I'm not even joking when I say that's just straight like work time, talking with each other over an online document. And I don't know if you can hear this horn, but that's literally how my brain feels right now. It's just going off like crazy. But that's my week. It's been crazy, it's been hectic, but that's okay, because next week for me is what we call reading week in university and college. So basically that's just a mid-semester break, either to have a break from school, or just take a breather from constantly working every week, or maybe it's a time to catch up in university and college. So that has been my week. And so make sure to leave a comment down below as to what you've enjoyed so far. For me, it's definitely been the fact that lectures are recorded, and I get to look back and watch those videos. So leave a comment down below on what your favorite part of having school, either online or half day, whatever it could be. Leave it down below. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video to stay up to date on new content that we have every week. And having said that, if you've been following with us in the last 2 weeks, we have been in a series that's been focused on talking about family. So different parts and different aspects to the way we see our family, and maybe the way we act or behave around them in particular. And so if you haven't, now you know. So last week, Solomon actually shared a message in our series on family, relating to, your family does not need to be perfect in order for God to use your family. And so we are continuing in this series, and with the thought of family still. But this week we are going to talk about changes, when your family changes, or when your family goes through changes, and what that means for us. And so to start off, change is a word that can mean like good or bad most times. Either it's change that affects something in our routine, something in our the way we interact with our family, or even just the way that you do things in the home. It's not even related to your family, it's the way you take care of your home, for example. And so change can either mean something good or bad to any of us, and that's personally that's change that changes to between everyone else. And so we all go through that as a family. We experience different kinds of change, big or small. And an example of that in my family has been the idea of moving from home to home. So to give you an example, my family, when I was in grade 7, was at school. We were living close by the school for a while, and I was in grade 7, and I didn't have any expectation of moving from this home in particular to another home, which would be downtown. And it really kind of dawned on me that we were moving, and it was very sudden. In the past, when I was growing up, my parents would let me know when we were moving, We moved from one apartment to another, and eventually to a home, and then eventually to another home. And those ones I knew they were coming, as in I was well aware, I was informed. But this one in grade 7, moving from a house to downtown in particular, was really shocking. Like, I mean, I was in the middle of focusing on school at the time, and they just said, "Oh, by the way, we're moving like next weekend." And I said, "What?" And it was very like hard to process at the time. And I'm gonna hold the story there and let you consider what I'm saying, but we're gonna come back to that story in a bit. But what I do want to point out from what I've told you already is that change for some of us, like in my story, personally, it is not easy. It is difficult for some of us to understand, to get around, or even wrap the idea that this is happening as it happens. But in other ways, we see it coming, right? Like I mentioned in my story, other times when we moved, I'm well aware. I know it's coming, and I'm okay, and I'm aware of what happens with that, or what that implies. So moving from home to home, and you're in school, that means you're basically giving up school in one place to another, which means you're giving up friends in one place to meet new ones in another again. And some of us don't like that in particular, and that's okay. I totally get that. That is something that I've learned to grow up, adjusting to a lot, and it's not easy, but it is something that we do have to go through, and that we do have to face, regardless of whether we're aware or not. Um, Another example would be, in school, when you're making that transition from, say, middle school to high school, or high school to university. All those transitional changes are things that, we know it's going to happen, right? For some of you grade 12s, you know that this is your last year. And to be honest, being in grade 12 in COVID-19 right now, and being in quarantine, is really difficult to understand. Another example, outside of school, is when we're watching, for example, Netflix is a popular place that everyone watches shows at the moment. And you know in one moment you have a certain type of show that's your favorite, and then Netflix comes along and adds new videos to the list of like what's popular, what's hit. And suddenly you take a look at one of these shows, and then it becomes your own favorite over time as well. And but that's something that's gonna happen. So that's the difference. um, so for some of us, we get that change can be expected, and that we're ready for it, or that we anticipate it to come. But like I said, some of us are not in that place, and some of us don't feel that way when change happens to us. And so the point is, whether it's big or small, good or bad, in terms of the change that our families personally experience over time, it does not mean that we should expect them to be easy. Um, we should not expect them to be somewhere in the middle, to be like comfortable with or be okay with. Sometimes it can actually be really difficult to process. It's not just like when you transition into something, when change happens. It's not like it takes a couple weeks for some. In fact, it could take months, years, for someone to fully adjust and change and grow into what they've experienced. And that's really the truth about change when it happens to us sometimes. Is that it happens, and it goes on longer for us to make a transition when we experience it. And so the difficult part of what I'm telling you, when it comes to change, when we experience it with our families, is that we have to face it. That's the fact. Is that we have to face it, and that we are gonna face it when it comes. And A question that this might leave us with in particular is, how do we handle it when our family changes or when our family goes through changes? How do we handle that? And I think the best place to look for this kind of, solution, this answer that we're looking for in this question, has to do and it has to come from the Bible. It has to be from God's word, because I think we're gonna find something that's really interesting that God would say in His word. One of the first verses I'm going to point out to us comes from Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2, which says this: "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And when you walk through fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." And so, what we can take away and what this verse is pointing out to us in particular is that, no matter what we are going through, whether it's like waters that we're trying to pass, whether it's like a river that we're trying to get through, or whether it's walking through a fire, those are the kinds of things that, for example, those are what change feels like to you. It feels like you're walking through something intense, like a fire. It may feel like something is just rushing past you and rushing through you in your situation when it changes, like a river. But what God is saying to us in this verse in particular is that, number one, He will be with us. He's going to be there with us, and that even when the feeling of overwhelmingness in a situation, for example, is like flowing over us and through us, we're not going to get carried away by it. We're not going to get swept away by everything that's happening to us. Why? Because God is with us. And that's the point of that verse. And so, the point of this message altogether is this. When your family changes, God is with you. And that's the point. That God is with us in our everyday moments, but He's also with us in our moments where we experience change. And that includes when your family goes through changes itself. And I want to point out something to you guys. When I'm talking about family, if you remember in the first week of this series, I pointed out that family is not just, people in your home, people that you are related to by blood. This could mean friends to you that you feel that are close, like family. And for you, that means people that you don't know by blood or are even related to. You consider them family. That still implies family, right? I want you guys to remember that. We're not talking just about, by blood related or by relativity in your family. I'm talking about anyone that you consider family, that is your family. And that applies to what I'm saying here, is that God is with you despite whoever it is and whatever you're going through with those particular people. And so, that promise will never change. But it also doesn't mean that, because we have God, everything will miraculously be fixed, be solved, and we're out of the situation in a second. That's not what God is saying. In fact, I'm going to point out another verse in Isaiah from chapter 41, verse 10, which will help make sense of what I'm trying to tell you, which goes like this. And this is the Message version, so it's basically a more simplified and relatively easy way to understand it. So let me just tell you what it is. Don't panic. I'm with you. There's no need to fear, for I'm your God. I'll give you strength. I'll help you. I'll hold you steady and keep a firm grip on you. Sounds simple, right? Well, it really is, because, what God is pointing out in this verse and what God is trying to tell us is that don't fear. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of coming through change, because we have God, because we have Him with us, right? God is saying to us, when we are facing these changes with family, He's telling us, don't be afraid. I'm with you. Be encouraged. In fact, in this verse, he's saying to us, I'll give you the strength. I'll give you the endurance that you need to face this situation. I'll give you the help, and I'll help you be firm, as in you're anchored, as in you're held in place by him. And so, coming back to my story of moving downtown very abruptly and suddenly, um, after moving from that home that was close to my school at the time, and then suddenly moving downtown and still choosing to go to the same school, by the way. At first I thought this was going to be a difficult transition. And in fact, I was just more considerate of the fact that we have to travel because of the distance. Um, but slowly over time, I graduated from that elementary school, and yet I still decided, interestingly, to go to the nearest high school from that elementary school, which was not downtown. It was still in Scarborough from where I was. And so I went through high school, all 4 years, coming from downtown, and it didn't just affect my situation of living, being in school, and even eventually into college and university now, but this also affected other members of my family, right? For my sister, it's a whole different transition. For my mom, she was closer to work conveniently, and for my dad, it was also convenient for him to travel to work closer too. Um, but those weren't things that I was considering when we moved downtown. A lot of what I was thinking about was just to myself, as in, how am I going to be changed by all of this? And so that's the point I want to give to you when we're experiencing change, also, as in how can we apply it, is don't just think about yourself in the situation when you're going through change with your family. Think about people that are included in that situation outside of yourself, right? To be more considerate and aware of those that are being affected by it, not just you. And so I want you guys to be challenged by that this week, is to think about who in your family can you show love, show encouragement, show kindness, show patience towards. Who in your family needs it more than you do at the moment? Maybe for you, sure, you are having a difficult time going through change, or maybe it's something that you're not experiencing right now, but you will in the future. But the question is, who in your family is struggling with something, and how can you help them be encouraged? How can you show them love? And so that is, my challenge to you, right? And I want you guys to just be considerate of that as you go through your week. And even think about, when I face the next challenge of change in my family, how am I going to handle it? Think about that. And so as you go into small groups, I want to leave you guys with one question, which is this. What is one thing, one change I'm facing or have faced in my family? That's something that you guys can share about, you can discuss with each other. And again, if small group, I almost said home group. If small group is to you, your family, be willing to share with those people, because you're a small group leader, and even your other small group members genuinely are there because they want to be encouraged or be an encourager to you. And so let me just pray, and we can wrap up this message. God, we just want to thank you. Thank you for your word in Isaiah, your promises of never leaving us and always being there in any circumstance that we go through. God, we just ask that you would bless us in our time of small group. Help us to be challenged this week to look outside of ourselves when we experience change, and in fact challenge our way of thinking when we go through change. God, we just ask that you would do that for us. Help us to look into that this week. And yeah, Lord, we just pray that you would continue to help us grow in that personal and intimate relationship with you. In your name, Jesus, we pray all of this. Amen. So, City Youth, stay safe. Make sure to pray for the safety of also your family. Another way you can think about other people. And yeah, for their safety, currently in COVID-19, things are starting to ramp up again. So just make sure you're taking care of yourself and those around you. And make sure to leave a like and a comment on, outside of just, what's your favorite part of school, but also what's your go-to place for your fall drink. Whether it's hot or cold, let me know in the comments down below. And lastly, subscribe to stay connected with our videos every week. Not just these video messages, but also weekly content that we give out. And so, having said that, see you next week. Take care.